Namaste. I welcome you all to this 32nd session of Gurubodha. Gurubodha sir, coming to the topic of today, that is mango. If we really are studying Dravya and studying about rasas in particular, and if we are confused about which rasa acts in which way, Madhur rasa acts in which way, and Amla rasa, if that is confusing, probably studying mango will be a good idea to know the different rasas and its actions. So it carries whole of Dravya in it, sir.
So definitely, mango is one of the important drug from its inception to the final stage. It changes metamorphically into different taste factors. In the early stages, it will be kashaya pradhana, that is, astringent property will be more. And once it is getting ripened towards the ripening or semi-ripened, then it will be amla or the acidic or sour in nature. Then once it is totally ripened, it becomes totally sweet. So in all these things, definitely a same drug, a mango, which can be used in multiple type of conditions when with respect to its taste or rasa. Even the entire plant of mango has different versatile actions. For example, we always use a mango fruit as a fruit, not as a medicament. Or sometimes some preparations made out of it, like mango juice or something like that, or even mango cakes, juice cakes are made, or even mango shrikand is prepared. So such type of things are done. Then when compared to its bark and leaves, it is entirely different. They are kashaya pradhana throughout. There will be no change in from its from the first stage or the primary stage to the final stage. There will not be any change in the rasa. So it's very typically drug of versatile complex activity. Or the even guna karmas are also there in the mango in such a format that at different stages of its growth, it acts in a different manner. For example, mango, when it is a very young, a smaller one, or unripened, or what you call khairi in Hindi, so that will be very typically kashaya pradhana in nature, and such kashaya pradhana dravya will definitely act as helping in absorption of the food, and it is good for wherever there is a oozing is there, or wound healing property is there, or something like that, or IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and such type of conditions, or even it's having effect on urinary system, where it reduces the quantum of urine. So something like that. These type of activities could be seen in case of bark and even the seed of the mango. Whereas mango as a unripened or semi-ripened, which is more sour in nature, people prepare some sort of food materials like in this part of Karnataka, and they call it as Appesaaru. There is one typical thing they prepare out of mango by boiling the small mangoes, unripened mangoes, and then later they'll give some tadka or something like that, a kind of rasam. A preparation is made, and it is given for drinking at the time of summer and these things, because it enhances agni and improves the digestion part of it. And usually, if a heavy meal is considered or taken, then usually this Appesaaru, or what you call a typical type of rasam prepared out of mango, it is being used extensively. Whereas once it is totally ripened, it becomes madhura in pradhana rasa, and then definitely it is balaprada, shukravardhaka, and guru in nature. So typically a single drug in its different stages of evolvement, it acts in a different manner. So that is the reason, and which gives a good idea of how the guna, rasa guna, and panchaga, what are the basic in padarthas of dravya, like rasa guna, virya vipaka, how they function. One can understand in a single drug itself. So this is one of the versatile drug, mango. But we have got a lot of varieties of mangoes. Not all the mangoes are having similar type of actions. Some mangoes, general terms, what I have described is the typically applies to every type of mango. But there are versatile varieties of mangoes are also available across the globe.
Coming to this, Appesaaru, that is usually sour in taste overall, right, sir? Little
Yes,
bit.
sour as well as pungent, and it is being given tadka with asafoetida. So it will be cooked and treated in such a manner that it has typically improves the digestion.
So, like you said, it is rightfully used largely in summers. It is very common to use a little bit of sour tinged drinks such as Appesaaru, even another one, Punarpuli or Garcinia. That is also, Punarpuli juice is also used in Grishma Ritu, though it is slightly having Ushnavirya and though it has a sour tinge. So probably that is taken to improve the Agni, sir.
Definitely. See, we feel that it is Grishma Ritu, but typically, as per the records, now it is still Vasanta Ritu here in this part of the world. So Vasanta Ritu has started, but from Vasanta Ritu onwards, it is slightly Adhana Kala is getting in, and the more and more atmospheric sun and heat will be there. So all definitely the things will go in such a manner that slowly the person's will digestion capacity will lower in these 3 seasons particularly, and even in the Varsha Ritu. So typically in these type of thing time, people across the southern part of India, they use these variations made out of mango, and one of them is Appesaaru. That's very clearly all these 3 seasons from Vasanta till Varsha Ritu, slowly all humans digestive power or digestive capacity reduces slowly. So Agni will be at backseat. So in order to improve the Agni and help in digestion, people go for this type of Agni Vardaka Peyas.
That is one slight confusion usually a new Ayurveda student makes between autumn season of Sharad Ritu and Grishma Ritu. So in Grishma, externally there is increase in temperature in the atmosphere, but still slight pitta stimulating drinks such as these are kind of very well tolerated, whereas actually pitta undergoes aggravation only in autumn or fall season, Sharad Ritu.
See, from here onwards, Vasant Ritu onwards, slowly pitta starts getting aggravated. To manifest into a disease or something like that, it requires a qualitative type of increase. So this is Dravyatmaka, Gunatmaka and Karmatmaka that we call it as 3 categories. Such type of magnified way of expression of a dosha can take place only in its Prakopakala. So Pitta slowly starts accumulating from here onwards, and then at the time of Sharad Ritu, it becomes very typically exhibited. So that's the reason we call it as a Prakopa of Pitta takes place in Sharad Ritu, but itself typically it starts from here onwards, Vasant Ritu onwards. But we always know that Sharad is considered as second Grishma, or the Grishma Ritu qualities will be there with Sharad Ritu also, but to a lesser extent because of the influence of Varsha Ritu and it's a previous Ritu, and the next Ritu is also is comparatively colder. So that's why it's somewhat sandwiched between these two Ritus. So it may not express totally as Grishma Ritu, but its qualities typically because of increased Pitta from Vasant Ritu onwards, because of habits as well as the atmospheric temperature, slowly things will change into that direction, and ultimately in Sharad Ritu it becomes exhibited.
And the sour mango. So these references are taken from different nigantus. Acharyas have explained as sour mango, which possesses almost all the characteristics of amla rasa, right, sir?
See, definitely it possesses all the characters of Amla Rasa, and it increases even causes Raktapita. We have seen many patients, particularly during this time, if they consume more and more of this type of payas prepared out of sour mango, then definitely they'll tend to have some allergic conditions, including vasculitis and bleeding tendencies. We should be very clear in our mind that before we apply this mango uses in typical conditions, a person who is already in pradhara or already in bleeding tendency or some hemophilia problems or something like that, those related with the blood, it is there. typically we should take care not to use them. So this is one of the important area we should understand. Typically, the sour mango causes allergies also many a times.
And it is explained as Hridaya and Varnakara. I mean, Varna is a general term used to, to indicate overall skin health improvement. Probably it improves the blood circulation in the peripheries and in the skin area, and thereby causes detoxification there, sir.
No, it is basically a Ushna. So this Ushna Dravya will definitely improve the circulation. So that's why it's also Hrudya. And it's Amlarasa is Amlarasa Hrudyana. Based on that concept, Hrudya acts. And Varnakara is just because it improves the blood circulation. Thereby there will be some enhancement. Because you can see, observe in a person, one during winter season, there is a peripheral circulation is hampered, then the person will become dry and somewhat shava in nature, but the same person will become somewhat brighter in Vasant Rutu and Grishma Rutu because of the influence of heat. So it's the influence of heat which creates the circulation and thereby promotes, so to some extent, Varna. And Varna is basically a quality, I mean karma produced by Pitta. So that's the reason it increases Pitta, thereby Varna also improves to large extent. And Ruchya, it is very clearly, it improves the taste, enhances the taste, but it also causes, typically reduces the voice, and it causes the Kantagraha. It should not be used in more, because that's the reason many times in this time of people use lot of sour mango with salt and pepper and even chilies, but sometimes it causes Kantagraha, a voice drop or sore throat or Swarabheda can occur. It improves Rakta definitely because it is Hrudya in nature, and it is improves the qualities of Rakta to some extent initially. If it is taken in large doses, then it may cause bleeding. It tends to move out. It causes Rakta Pitta.
As you said, the dose or the quantity that we consume largely depends on that. Whereas once we come back to our sweet mango, which is a delight for all of us, it is right away again a classical sweet, carries all the Madhura Rasa gunas quality.
Definitely, when it is a sweet mango, all these things are happen, but still, basic nature of causing a little bit of ushnata still remains with the mango. That's why, if you, even though it is a very sweet mango, but if you consume it in a large quantities and repeatedly, if you are consuming, then definitely it is going to cause some allergy or vasculitis. It should be careful. Otherwise, it is, of course, typically it is a sweetest one, and it is a Vatagna, Brahmana, everything is right. But still, there will be sometimes we cannot have 100% sweet things. Sometimes it may be having some portion of sour and sweet. So such type of mangoes will definitely cause certain problems if it is taken in large doses. So care should be taken in order to see that it should be 100% or fully pakwa or fully ripened thing. Then it becomes very hita to the body, and it is tarpana, it nourishing in nature, and it is highly sweet in nature, and it is balya, shukravardhana, all these things, just like typically what Madhurasa activities are there, that is done.
Like you said rightfully, that's why probably pitta avarodhi is explained, like does not increase pitta. It's not, though it is told as kashaya anurasa or astringent and sweet dominant, it does not decrease pitta. So clearly, like you said, it's a prior stage influence is there still in this right when it undergoes ripening.
Yes, there will be, if any chances of remnants of amlarasa stays in that, even though a semi-ripened or fully not fully ripened mango, and such mangoes are used, then there is a possibility of vasculitis or some pimples or papules or some vesicles may develop in the body, something like that. It is pitaka, as we call it as. many a times, and it will be sometimes itchy also.
Sir, and Vistabia or it may cause constipation is attributed to astringent subtaste, sir.
Many a times it won't cause vistabdata, but it's only depend on the dose, the quantum, what how much we have consumed. Then there may be chances. In Ayurveda, very typically said anything if you eat in excess may cause ajirna. Otherwise, mango is a such a drug which is always consumed after food in order to digest it. So it is Agni Vardhana, and if you take a mango juice, then definitely it will going to improve the digestion. But unfortunately, fortunately, nowadays we have a lot of people consuming mango milkshake. That is one of the biggest trouble-causing material, and it is a viruddha ahara. It should not be done. Mango and milk should not be mixed. Mango as a single ingredient, mango should be consumed as a juice. It should not be mixed with milk. But everywhere you go, there is a lot of people consuming as mango smoothie and something like that, and mango milkshake, something like that. But it is not a right word kind of thing, and that is going to be causing skin allergies later if you consume continuously.
One drug has rasa and anurasa, but when the drug is taken in relatively larger quantities, as in case of mango juice, which we want to have more and more, there the main taste would suppress the effect of subtaste because too much of is consumed and too much of sweetness would suppress the astringent quality actions.
See, typically in Ayurveda, while explaining the drug action, there are certain rules has been explained. If rasa guna virya vipaka of the dravya present in a drug with equal strength, then guna will suppress the rasas, and then rasa guna both will be suppressed by vipaka, and all these three will be suppressed by virya. Like that they have given very clearly. Otherwise, if these rasaguna virya vipaka padarthas of a dravya are typically in imbalance, then whoever is a stronger one will suppress the weaker and show its expression. So that is the one that has been explained. But in many conditions, even though there are contradictory combinations of rasaguna viryas are present in the drug, entire activity of that contradictory material will not be lost. Certain things will remain. For example, in case of a shunti and pipali, if you observe, both shunti and pipali are katurasa and everything, but it has madhura vipaka, and because of madhura vipaka, it has a shukra vardhana or shukra janana karma, and it is not having a negative effect on shukra dhatu. So it is very typically, even though it is a potent katurasa, a katurasa is always going to suppress the shukra dhatu. But here, even though it is having katurasa, it won't suppress the shukra dhatu. That is the reason that the arrangement of pancham padarthas inside the body, I mean inside the dravya, in a typical manner that it won't suppress the activity of all the other things totally. For example, if any given karma is there, it has to be manifested, then whoever may be the dominant in the category will take the lead and will lead the condition. For example, if there is a Brahmana action has to be brought in, then Madhura will take the lead and does the Brahmana action. But Kashaya has to stay back. But really understanding, Kashaya is also Guru in nature, just like Madhurasa. So it also supports the Madhurasa to do the Guru functions of the Madhurasa. So typically it causes Brahmana with the help of Madhura. But whereas certain other qualities like astringent property is going to cause anything like that, such activity where Madhurasa won't obstruct the way, then that effects are also seen with that drug. So typically, many times you have seen such type of things. A drug as a whole, when it is given, each and every things will perform some other things. So that's the reason. Rasena kurute karmam kinchit viryena kinchit vipakena. There is one shloka saying that certain activity of a drug is brought about by rasa, certain activities of a drug is brought about by virya, something by vipaka, and it's like that. Every component of a drug will contribute to the wholeness of the drug activity. So it doesn't mean that only one rasa will be dominating certain areas. If something is dominating and doing, the other will keep quiet. So this is the typical nature of drug manifestation and drug activity.
There's a question. Should we avoid mangoes when somebody has peptic ulcers, sir?
If it is a totally 100% ripened mango, then it's okay. If it is taken as a juice or something with a little quantity, it doesn't cause any problem. But it has a soreness naturally, then you should not consume it. It is going to harm the condition.
Coming to its mango's bark, like mango's seed kernel, it is straight away astringent and possesses astringent qualities right away, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Mango bark and mango seeds are very typically having astringent property or kashaya rasa, and definitely they reduce the kapha as well as dravatva of pitta, because naturally pitta has dravaguna, and that dravatva of the pitta will be reduced. Hence, it will be supporting, acting as grahi, binding in nature, useful in IBS as well as in diarrhea, and also it will be useful in case of prameha to some extent, are they where there is a large quantity of urine is being expelled from the body. In order to reduce that, people use kashayas prepared out of bark or the seeds of the mango.
Yes, sir. And its root probably has similar qualities to that of bark and the seeds. And young leaf shoots, the pallavas are also used in therapeutics, sir.
Definitely, see, mango pallava is one of the drug in pancha pallava, and definitely it improves the ruchi in ahara, taste in the food, and that's why it's used in anorexia, as well as it is a grahi in nature, and it is very typically used in gandha karma. We call it as wherever there is an aroma is required. Typically, one of the mango has a typical aroma, that is aromatic odor, and in the young shoots or the pallavas of mango are coppery red in color, and they are having a typical nature as well as a smell which is very soothing to most of the people. So it improves the nasal activity or the functions of the Grahanendriya, and as well as it also improves the digestive capacities by improving the senses.
And its a flower is also again probably kashaya rasa pradhana. That's why again grahi, atisara hara, prameha hara is explained, right?
Yeah, same, similar. See, except the fruit, all other things in that plant, usually it may be bark or seed or leaves and even the flowers, almost similar type of rasaguna viryas, and that's why almost in similar conditions they all work. Only thing is the fruit which goes on changes its rasaguna yuripaka, and that rasarupantara which is taking place, which definitely gives a scope for the mango fruit as a more versatile one in utility because of its activity. Otherwise, all its other parts are almost same, from its smaller tree, a small tree, a very big tree. Doesn't make any change.
And coming to its one of the spicy ingredients used in like chats like panipuri, masala puri, and whatnot. We Indians are love that very much. Amchur powder is again prepared with mango, and it has the sour properties more dominant, sir.
See, typically, South Indian food preparation will have a dominancy of tamarind. So wherever the tamarind is used, similarly in those areas, in the Northern Indian preparations, Amchur is used. For purpose is same. Whenever there is something which is sticky and something which is to be require a soreness, then Amchur is prepared, particularly for preparing a bindi or something like that, the lady's finger. So such type of preparations, they use it, Amchur, and it is a very commonly prepared from the unripened mango and sun-dried, sliced and powdered, and it is available in market, very common as a ingredient, and typically it is one of the material in the kitchen.
And I also found references of ripened mango having a little bit of a difference in variation in their properties when it ripens on the tree and when it is artificially ripened. If it is Vrishya Sampaka Amra, like mango that ripens on the tree itself, so carries all the richness of sweet with it very well, sir.
Definitely, one which is naturally ripened in the tree itself will carry all the qualities described, and definitely it will be good because it is something which is taken care natural way, I think. But presently, getting such Ruksha Sampakwa Ambra is very, very difficult task because of huge market and business. People are going for Kritaka or the artificial methods of making it ripen, and even the people are using very dangerous chemicals to make it ripen. Once their unripened mangoes are plucked and they're packed, and before sealing it, they put some sort of chemicals onto that, and when next morning or the day of two morning, when you open it, it will be totally ripened with a uniform color. So that is very, very dangerous to body, not only for health wise, and it is a toxic to the nerves as well as blood. So you should be careful not to use those things. But people want that color and smell and all these things. They go for artificial method of ripening.
Nowadays, especially in Indian markets, getting good quality naturally grown fruits have become like very difficult, even with the grapes and all. Probably like dipping it in lukewarm saline water for some time, any fruit that we bring would eliminate a little bit of at least externally if they applied something that would be gotten rid. We do that with the grapes usually.
Now, that can only help to some extent, but it is better to avoid those things. Try to get from naturally grown. Nowadays, there are some organic growers and some farmers. Such type of it's available, but it is very compared to Indian population size and our country magnitude. It is very, very less.
Another indication is that, especially with the apples and all, if it is too shiny and there is no rotten apple at all in the stock and everything looks like shiny and bright, probably has been manipulated in some of the other ways. Whereas if there is some slot in which little bit of over-ripened apple, etc. are there, probably that group of this one is closer to nature, sir.
Definitely, even while purchasing cauliflower in the market, we used to have a same criteria of thing. If some insects are present in that, it is good that he has not used pesticides or that materials continuously. If a cauliflower is bright white, neat, no spots, no insects, then think that definitely he has used ample quantity of pesticides while it's growing. It's very typically farmers, they say it every alternate day they spray pesticides over the flowers. Otherwise, insects will just bite it and definitely they'll get a less rate in the market. So in order to avoid that, they are going for continuously spraying these materials, and we'll be eating those things even though how much we try to remove them by putting it in potassium permanganate solution or salt water, whatever it is, but still it is very, very difficult to remove all sorts of pesticides residue. So that's why many a times these artificial materials, they're causing a lot of trouble to practice as well as our health.
And also like being over obsessive with regards to the aroma of the product or the fruit, and the color of the fruit is also not so very good. The rose water, for example, if we do the distillation and get the rose arca distillate of rose water, it will not be that much having that much strong aroma. But we are so obsessed with the strong aroma rose water that we eventually go on to buy something which is chemically altered to enhance the aroma.
So definitely to bring in the 100%, we always go for something which is artificially manipulated. So many a times in market, not only with the clove, not only with the mango or even anything, everywhere the color has an influence, smell has an influence, and difficulty in understanding how they are prepared or what they are done. We simply take it and bring it to home, and that is going to cause a lot of problems many a times, but in a long run, because it is not going to cause any acute illness. So on a cumulative things, then it becomes a problematic one.
Another thing that I noticed with the natural one versus the artificial one, the natural one has, like you initially described, it has some pitta increasing tendency, it has some memories of its previous sour past, whereas artificial one, which is Kritrima Pakwa Amra, sorry, is light to digest and rather it is coolant. So clearly it's not so good as good as the natural ones are.
Definitely, Kritrima is Kritrima. That's what I said. Whenever we understand or observe something which is sweeter, but it has some sort of sourness or bitterness in that or something like that, then you understand that it is somewhat near to the normalcy. The one which is totally 100% sweet and everything is fine, then think of some foul play has been played in order to, and of course, there are certain other issues are also. For example, if you are getting a mango early in the season, then it is too much sweet, then definitely it has been manipulated. But at the end of the season, naturally, the one or two summer rains will be there, and after that, whatever the mangoes we get, those mangoes will usually have a very good type of taste, and of course qualitatively better than the earlier whatever we come in the early part of the season.
And yeah, coming to the season and the fruits, I still remember your Dravaguna chapter where you were explaining that Shaka Patra should be collected from Varsha and Vasanta Rutu and all, and it goes on Mulai from Grishma and Shishira Rutu. That is, roots should be collected from summer and winter seasons. So Phala and Pushpa are clearly told to be collected when they arrive as per season, and you were insisting that only seasonal fruits and seasonal flowers make sense and other things not so much.
See, still there is a lot of issues. If you observe, previously we used to get watermelon only in summer, but now we get watermelon, we start getting a watermelon very early from November itself. From the month of November, here it is a winter. From winter itself, we start getting these things. We are supposed to get, and even it goes beyond even up to the rainy season. So very typically, the human mentality or brain has become such a way that we want everything throughout the season, 365 days. Acharya has very clearly mentioned there are different ritus, different kalas. Accordingly, we need to change the food pattern. We need to change the clothing pattern, the way we live. But unfortunately, we want to live in a similar manner, similar food pattern throughout the 365 days. So that is the reason where we are landing in trouble, and ultimately there are certain issues related with this type of way of life causing irreversible damage on the body.
And there's a question here. How do you deal with eating vegetables and fruits as part of Ayurvedic diet? So there are many theories in Sushruta 46 chapter. He explains that fruit should be consumed first, and then we have another theory in which like very heavy fruits such as jackfruit, better to take it on empty stomach or before food, and mangoes and bananas are usually taken after food. And there is also another theory that sweet, sour, salt, pungent, bitter, and astringent. Madhuramla, Lavana, Katutikta, Kashaya. So whatever the fruits and vegetables should be taken in this order. So how to think about these things, sir?
See, first of all, we need to collect the fruits from the trees or the plants only when they are manifested. So when they are manifested in a particular season and we have got the opportunity to eat them in that season only. So we need to eat them accordingly. This is the first line thing. Secondly, there are certain qualities of the fruits which are very heavy to nature. That's like jackfruit. It should be consumed on empty stomach when your appetite or your hunger is more prominent. Whereas you have eaten a good quantity of food, but you need something digestive, then it is better to go with a mango after food section. But think that totally food, whatever you consume, after that you consume once again some portion of fruits, then it becomes a heavy diet. We need to concentrate in such a fashion that whatever the amount of ahara we consume or a diet we consume, it should include the fruits to some extent. It is not that we have taken the regular food our appetite to the brim, and over that we are eating fruits because it is said eating a fruit after food is very good. That is not the right way of doing it. It should be part of the total consumption, whatever you are doing it. In between that only it should come. It should not exceed the daily allowance of the energy or the food what you consume. Otherwise, then that also becomes poisonous.
Rightly you said. Previously, when they were talking about meal time, it was just only two meal times, and whatever the fruits and vegetables that you would want to consume, it was packed to that meal time only. Otherwise, it would become snacking, and the agni will be disturbed, and the whole process of digestion will be disturbed. Sir.
Of course, it is a whole process of digestion will be disturbed, but there are certain conditions many times like acidity or amlapita or GERD type of problems. Then we need to go for a shorter meals and small meals, something like that. It has been classified. Of course, there's a lot of material for the debate where too much of the food should not be put into our system at once, and it may burden the liver and the gastric related materials and the organs. It should be repeatedly given like that. See, but typically our totally what we call that gastrointestinal system as a typical way of secreting the juices which is required for the purpose of digestion. If you habitate them in such a manner that only two meal a day, that will go accordingly. And our stomach is such a type of organ. If it can be given some sort of influence, if you start eating two chapatis per day, it will stick on to two. Slowly, if you increase to three, it adjusts to the three. And slowly, if you increase to the four, it increases to the four and adjusts itself to the fourth. So, like that, it can be accommodative, very much accommodative in nature. So, that's why we need to understand that there is a certain issues. Whatever the food I am consuming, if it is slowly starting increase my weight, which is beyond the expected line, then we should be very, very careful that whatever we are consuming is rather than what we require. So we should be very careful in that. If our all fruits and vegetables, everything comes in the pack of foods, what we consume at particular time, within that criteria, then there will be no issue.
There's a question, what do you do if we are living abroad? All our Indian vegetables are flown in and definitely non-seasonal. The local vegetables is very limited in variety and also not seasonal anymore. And there's also, one question to add to that. There's also theory that locally grown fruits and vegetables, they are better than say imported ones because the quality of the mud and the weather, climate, everything is very similar to the body nature of the person. So,
see, there are certain issues. Of course, it should be done in that way. When it is not possible, then we should go for a better alternative. So, better alternative is that we have techniques to preserve its nature and its qualities, and it fluid this to the different part of the world in a very quickest time. So that can be done to bring in the thing. Otherwise, you just carry on the seeds, grow yourself wherever you are there, even if atmosphere suits that for the growth of that plant. Of course, there are certain issues with that. We cannot carry seeds outside the one country to another country. Sometimes it will not be allowed even inside, and because of the various disease and such type of things are concerned. But still, that is one of the option that can be done. Otherwise, the next alternative is that wherever it is in the shortest time it comes, that has to be and it is preserved in a very clear manner with many of the containers and the baggages. So if it is then of course that is something better than nothing.
yeah, and I know another person in Florida. The weather in Florida is very similar to like Indian condition, and they are trying to come up with a like an herbal garden with all the Indian trees and fruits and whatnot. So, is coffee liable to cause strain on liver? I remember you organized a blood donation camp, and so we were all giving donating our bloods, and at the end you were planning to give something like a sour drink or some sour tamarind panaka to all candidates. And out of curiosity, we all asked the modern person, like what can be had after this just to stimulate our systems. He said coffee would be good. So entirely a different sort of thinking from two different sciences there, sir.
See, but once you donate blood and in order to instantly improve that, you require something which is liquid in nature. It will easily incorporate the volume loss created by the donation, which will be taken care of. But when a rakta has to develop, it has to develop with some sort of sourness it is required. That's the reason many of the vitamin C containing things are given along with iron in order to increase its absorption and improve the condition. So that is the reason it is better to go with a sour taste, some juices or panaka or something like that, rather than coffee.
Does it have any adverse effects on liver, even if it is taken in proper quantities, coffee, sir?
No, it doesn't cause any as such any problem because most of the time what we have seen is in Indian conditions, the coffee will not be 100% coffee. It will be added with chicory, and wherever chicory is added, then chicory has a very typical effect on liver. It improves the functions of the liver, so there is no problem as such.
Victoria ji has raised your hand. Can you please ask your question, ma'am?
Yes, Vaideji. I wanted to double check because you said, which we know, that milk should not be mixed with any sour things or mango. But how about lassi? Very often they serve in restaurants the mango lassi. Is mango lassi also not compatible, or that is all right?
Mango lassi is different from a mango with the milk. Mango with lassi is curd, which is added to the mango juice, and it is prepared. But it should not be consumed when it is mixed with dugdha or the milk. Milk and sour taste are opposite in nature, and they become a little bit difficult to digest, and on body they bring in a lot of negative effects.
Yes, thank you very much, Vaideji. And also with the lassi itself, there is both recipes also of the salty lassi. Is it okay lassi to be salty or lassi added to the salty food?
See, there are a lot of issues. People consume a lot of medications, foods in such a manner that they're all contraindicated in Ayurveda, very clearly said. And lassi is also one of them. But entire northern India, they have a typical time during summer, huge quantity of lassi is taken. And of course, it leads to a lot of skin conditions, but people won't take it in that sense and they consume it. Typically, even in Punjab, if you go and observe that, there is a typical combination of people consume a lot of foods, which is contraindicated in Ayurveda, but people consume it. Similarly, that curd should not be boiled and it is taken, but entire India in different set, from Kerala to entire northern India, people use curd in a different manner where they boil it and prepare it, like they call it as avial in somewhere, they call it as majge hodi somewhere, and they call it something like that. Everywhere it is very typically used in such manners. Of course, there are called as one condition in Ayurveda explained as vokasatmya, the one which is consumed for a long time. Definitely it supports to some extent and becomes somewhat conducive to the body or accustomed to the body. But in general, anything which is viruddha in nature, particularly dugdha, the milk, and particularly the milk and the mango or any sour fruits, it is always contraindicated.
Yes, this I understand, but I don't understand about the paneer and lassi. Is paneer, because now it is already, you have made from the milk curds, is that acceptable and added to the salty food or not?
See, very clearly, once milk is in its natural form, it is milk. Mm-hmm. When it turns into curd, it doesn't have the qualities of milk. And when it is converted into paneer, it doesn't have the qualities of milk to a large extent. It will be changed.
Yes.
So then we don't find it any as such contraindication in using them. But still, paneer, which is also called as kilata, something like that in Ayurveda, that is a cheese which is heavy to digest and it is not easily assimilated in the body. So one should be careful while using them.
Mm-hmm. And then the lassi is the same. Then if it's lassi is done from the sour yogurt, so then that is okay to add to the salty food or not?
Yes, definitely. When it is a little bit sour in nature, and such sour in nature, if you add mango or something like that, doesn't cause any such problems. But still, consuming lassi in large quantities to skin conditions.
Mhm. How often is okay to have lassi? Like 3 times a week, or 1 cup every day, or how much is good?
At least in particularly with the season, when there is a lot of heat outside, then at least something like that 100 ml per day, it will be okay.
Mhm. Yes, very good. And I just wanted to also clarify the last thing with these fruits, fresh fruits. Did I understood correctly that ideally we should have fresh fruits separated from the main meal between two meals? Like, let's say if your lunch is at 12 and dinner is at 7, then some are 3 and 4, or we should always have them within the lunch, like a part of the lunch.
See, as a part of the lunch, if you do it, there are certain issues, and once again debatable. People say that Agni is not exactly acting on the cooked food and the raw food in a similar manner, and this raw food requires more Agni power to digest it, and cooked food, if you consume along with this, then there will be chances of your uncooked food or the raw food may pass on down the gastrointestinal tract before really gets into digested. So there are issues with that. So it is better wholesome of energy whatever you are getting from the fruit and food and even vegetables what you are consuming. Consume it in a typically manner. The vegetable should be boiled and cooked. Mix it with the food and you can consume it. Whereas fruits either earlier to the food or after the food, but the quantum of energy what you are expecting out of it should balance your requirement per day.
Thank you very much, Vaideji. That was very helpful. Thank you.
So between there's again one question on paneer. So between paneer and dadhi, paneer and curd, paneer is categorized as a Shira Vikruti or milk byproduct, and it is right away guru and kapha increasing, whereas curd is sour and can increase pitta, right, sir?
Yes, definitely.
And buttermilk has sourness, but kashaya amla it is told, so astringent and sour. So buttermilk is not as pitta increasing as curd, sir, if I'm correct.
Definitely, because it is lagu in nature comparatively, so it won't increase the pitta to some extent, but still it is Ushna and it should be taken with care. But only one thing is that takra is one considered as one of the best thing for the digestion. So always it is said Bhojanante takram payam. So takra has to be, or the buttermilk has to be consumed at the end of the food to facilitate the absorption as well as digestion. So that's the reason people consume takra at the end.
That's why it's also told like for the divine people like suras, like how nectar is, buttermilk is for human beings. So it is very well documented in by Charaka, sir.
Yes, definitely. But unfortunate part of it, the people, I don't know how the West think about this buttermilk and all those things. But what I am observed nowadays with my patients, to ask them what is buttermilk, they just say that simply adding water to dadi and shake it, it becomes a buttermilk, or diluting thing. So that should not be considered as buttermilk. Buttermilk is the one which has to be churned and butter has to be separated from it. Then whatever it comes out, that is buttermilk.
Cooked buttermilk should not be a problem, sir?
Buttermilk as well as curd should not be cooked or heated. But we have seen across India, people are doing it.
This probably a very good question to end. Is mango a liability to diabetes? We have to think regarding mango fruit versus flower versus the bark, etc. Sir. Seed.
So very typically, fully ripened mango definitely contribute to the person, one who is already a diabetic. It improves his blood sugar levels. It is Madura in nature, definitely it increases. Whereas the mango flower, mango bark and everything in the form of kashaya or the kwatha or decoction, if you use it in a case of a diabetic person, definitely it is going to help him to reduce his quantum of urine output and thereby reduces the diabetic load. So it's very typically same drug but a different part of the drug acting in a different manner. If it is a pakwa, ripened fruit, if you are consuming, definitely it is going to increase the sugar levels in your body. Whereas its bark used in the form of decoction is going to reduce the sugar levels in the body.
That's why in a shloka, for one particular disease, if, for example, amra is mentioned, like mango is mentioned, we have to think through which one to pick based on the disease that is targeted, sir.
Definitely. Always, whenever you select a drug, think where your intention is, where you are expecting that your drug should act. Then accordingly, select the portion of the drug, or the type of the drug, or the combination of the drugs. Everything has to be planned accordingly.
That wraps today's session of Gurubodha. I thank all the participants for the interesting conversation that we had. And on behalf of all of us students, I thank Gururaja sir for guiding us through this wonderful topic of mango. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you for your patience listening and participation. Thank you.
See you all next Sunday in another Gurubodha session. Namaste. Thank you all.